It's The Drive. Fueled by BriggsAuto.com. Briggs has over 100 miles of cars, so shop today at BriggsAuto.com. Now, let's start The Drive.
Well, good evening, Wildcat and Jayhawk fans, and welcome to The Drive, sponsored by Briggs Auto Group. I'm Vince Lumberjane.
And I'm Katie Marr, and we are mostly through the bye weeks at this point.
Yes.
A lot more football to come, but a lot to talk about after a big road win for K-State.
That is indeed true. So let's go right to it, Katie. Now you can interact with us on social media at Facebook.com/The Drive Show, on Twitter at The Drive 13, and of course, answer our weekly poll question and make your game predictions on our Twitter page.
This segment of a 2-minute drill is sponsored by Vanderbilt's Your Work Food Center.
Well, the Wildcats survived a late fourth quarter push from Colorado, winning 31-28. Vince, how big was this road win for K-State last night?
That was huge. In every way, shape, and form, that was the game they needed to keep themselves in the Big 12 title picture, and they certainly did. The game, from every which way you think about it, there was plays made. There was all kinds of a roller coaster of emotions and feelings in that game. Coach Kleiman after the game said their defensive line was absolutely spectacular in this game. The one bad thing we didn't like to see was 4 guys go down hurt, one of them including Avery, but most of them all came back from injury in this game. But this was an outstanding performance, I believe, on both sides of the ball. Even though Shedeur Sanders had 388 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, they made him feel very uncomfortable in the pocket. He was scrambling a lot. Yes, we know how great of a quarterback he is. So just to be able to contain him as much as you could and still hold him off in that late fourth quarter push, this was a big road win. There was so many different things going on in this game. DJ Giddens, 182 rushing yards. The man was unstoppable. Dylan Edwards had a touchdown against his former team. Avery went for 221 passing yards, 3 total touchdowns, I should say. Jace Brown was awesome in this game, 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. A big one, Travis Hunter not being able to play most of the game, going down with a shoulder injury. Not sure how much that really impacted his game for K-State. You could definitely see it did a little bit with him not on both sides of the ball. But here's Coach Kleiman after the game talking about how big this game was for his team.
Yeah, a lot of young guys are. You know, we're either 6th and 7th year old guys or 6-year-old guys, or we're really young, and those guys are meshing really well. And that was a huge win. And that environment was really loud, and it was a really good environment. And hats off to the K-State fans, because they were really loud. I thought we had a great group of K-Staters come out here and support the guys, and it was fun to celebrate with our fans.
And Katie, something that set the tone as well. Colorado did not allow a 100-yard rusher all season. DJ Giddens had 127 in the first half.
That's DJ for you.
And I think that really set the tone for the whole game. Colorado had negative rushing yards in this game.
Yeah.
I think the run game really set it for him and obviously got up the big win.
Yeah, and as for the Travis Hunter thing, you know, I knew as soon as he went out and then was going to be out for the rest of the game, I knew that was going to be the topic from Colorado fans, was we would have won this game if Travis Hunter played for the rest of it. Y'all were down by 2 scores when he went out of the game. It'd be one thing if Colorado was up when he got injured. It's not like they choked up this big lead. No, K-State was ahead when Travis Hunter went out. Would he have played a role in the comeback effort? Sure. But relax.
But K-State got the big win that they needed. So the 3 biggest things KU needed to work on this bye week: defending the quarterback run, tackling, and keeping Jalen Daniels comfortable. So what do you hope to see them do, Katie, Saturday against Houston at Arrowhead?
Yeah, those are the 3 biggest things that I went into the bye week saying I hope that KU just – obviously, they have a lot to tackle, but I think those are the 3 most important things to tackle. We're going to start with number 1, keeping Jalen Daniels comfortable. Him against Arizona State, I think we can confidently say that was his best game of this season because he just looked so comfortable since the very first game, their only win against Lindenwood. 3 total touchdowns, 260 passing yards, and it just felt like they were calling more plays. He was a little more mobile in and out of the pocket. I liked what they were doing with him in that game. He looked the most comfortable, didn't throw any turnovers. That's the direction they need to keep building in. Whatever he has to do, sitting down with Jeff Grimes, with Coach Z, figuring out what works best for Jalen, because clearly it worked best for their team because they were extremely close to a win. Obviously, would have preferred a win, fans would have, but hopefully in the future now they'll be able to maximize on the turnovers that the defense has been getting. Now, speaking of the defense, they need to improve on the tackling. They started that really strong this year. We were saying before the season, the number one thing that teams playing KU would game plan for coming in was that if they just run the ball, they can run all over the field and they can score on KU because KU can't defend the run. It was a big thing for Brian Borland's defense coming into this season to prove that that's no longer the case, that they can defend the run. And in the first few games, we saw that. They were defending it really well, and we were like, oh, this is actually going to be a different story this year. Not anymore. They're not tackling as well anymore. Even Lance Leipold early in the season said he really liked the way his secondary was tackling, especially. They've reverted back to their old ways of being a defense that you can run on, and that brings me to number 3, the quarterback run. That is the most glaring issue for these Jayhawks. They cannot stop the quarterback run, and these aren't even super mobile quarterbacks that they're defending against. I genuinely think that KU would have 3 more wins on their schedule right now if they could just do a better job of defending the run, because West Virginia, UNLV, and Arizona State are all 3 games that they should have won, but they didn't because the quarterback on the other team was either their leading rusher or their second leading rusher. And that's
true.
The number one issue. You know, they're doing a great job on defense, but then that quarterback just finds a hole and he runs through and gets the first down, and that's the number one reason why they're losing games. So I hope that that's what they worked the most on, those 3 things, because they do play K-State in 2 weeks and they have Avery Johnson.
And they got DJ Giddens and obviously Dylan Edwards. If you can't stop the run, no matter who it is, that's going to be a nightmare for them.
Well, now we're going to look ahead to some Big 12 basketball. The KU men were selected to finish first in the league, with Hunter Dickinson being picked as Player of the Year. Coleman Hawkins for K-State is co-newcomer of the year. Many KU and K-State players being selected to preseason teams. Vince, what should we look out for this upcoming season between those 2 teams?
I really think KU, they probably are going to get the number 1 preseason again this year. When you look back at last year, they didn't have that depth that we saw. When Kevin McCullough went down, obviously they really lacked depth. Nick Timberlake didn't pan out to what they were hoping for. Obviously the guy from Townsend who was a lights-out shooter. They bring in a lot of good transfers. Rylan Griffin, AJ Storr, Zeke Mayo. They bring back Hunter Dickinson, KJ, DeJuan. They have a good nucleus from last year's team, but a lot of great transfers that can score. Coach Bill Self on the Field of 68 podcast said that Zeke Mayo is going to be that 4th starter. Not sure who that 5th starter could be yet. I really like this KU basketball team. They have the depth. They have the scoring. They should be a lot better this coming year.
I'm interested to see if we do see a starting 5 lineup with both Hunter and KJ, because I know kind of in the past it was kind of looking like with the new guys coming in, KJ might just have to be a guy coming in, not against his talent. Just I think it might work better if they're not always on the court at the same time together. So I'm interested to see if KJ does end up in that starting 5, which he rightfully deserves to be in. But yeah, they have so many weapons. And then as for K-State, they're a very new team. You know, they had a lot of guys leave the program, but they had a lot of really talented transfers coming in. Coleman Hawkins is just one of them. And Jerome Tang said that his training staff told him a few weeks ago that this is the most talented team that Jerome has given them in their 3 years here. Like he said to them, you know, these guys are looking really good, they're looking really fit. And they're like, yeah, coach, this is like the most talent that you've given us like before the season started to work with. So I think K-State is going to be kind of a dark horse that people aren't going to expect. And Coleman Hawkins plays a big role in that. But just mainly, we know Jerome Tang can put together a group of guys who have never played before and take them really far, which is what he did 2 years ago when he made the Elite Eight.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of those guys that he brought in, obviously Crazy Faith, when they had Marquise Noel and Ish Massoud, I think if he could put together a team and make that deep run, this team has a bunch of talent. Doug McDaniel, Ugana Yunyenso, just to name a couple, they are going to be really good too.
But I will say, I do hope that KU doesn't get the number 1 preseason pick. I think it's a curse. I hope they don't get it. It's just what happened last year.
Yeah, very, 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 very true. Now a quick look at our poll question results.
The poll questions are brought to you by Midland Exteriors. Love the home you live in. Call today for a free estimate.
Well, last week's question was, KU has 6 games left in the season. How many of them will they win? A, 0-1, that was 38%. B, 2-3, which is the winner of 62%. 4-5, 0%. And D, 6%. No faith in the Jayhawks.
No faith in the bowl eligibility run.
Wow.
Well, this week's question is, can the KU men and the K-State women's basketball teams both finish first in the conference? A, both will. B, just the KU men. C, just K-State women. Or D, neither. Vote on our Twitter page at TheDrive13.
I think they both will.
Yeah?
I think
I'm
they both will.
confident in it. Yeah.
I think they both will.
It's going to be hard, but
very
got
hard,
good odds.
especially on the men's side too.
Yes.
That will do it for this half of the 2-minute drill, but we'll be right back with more KU and K-State on The Drive.
Welcome back to The Drive, fueled by BriggsAuto.com. This segment of the 2-Minute Drill is sponsored by Copeland Insurance Agency, part of your community for more than 60 years.
Welcome back to The Drive as we continue our weekly 2-Minute Drill.
Well, KU has fallen out of the bottom of the Big 12 standings. Now they are needing to win out for bowl eligibility. Katie, do you think they can pull it off and have this miracle?
Yeah, this season has obviously not gone down the path we thought it was going to, being ranked in the top 25 preseason, being picked to finish 4th in the Big 12, to now being a Big 12 bottom dweller. I think there are still a few things that the Jayhawks absolutely have to fight for. They obviously are going to fight for them. This team has not given up by any means. But the number one thing that I think needs to be at the top of the priority list is a bowl game, because this is a program that's gone from 0 wins to 2 wins to a bowl game to a bowl win in 4 seasons. And if they don't continue that streak, they're going to have a hard time selling the future of this program to their fans, to recruits, and to the nation as being a top team in the Big 12. You look at the rest of the schedule. Okay, they're playing 2 more Big 12 bottom dwellers in Houston this week, and then at the end of the season they play Baylor. Who knows, that could be a deciding game if they do what I'm going to lay out right now, okay? Of the other remaining teams, that's going to be K-State, Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado. Well, 3 of those 4 are currently ranked in the top 20 in the nation. Colorado receiving votes. Who knows if they continue on their hot streak and build back from the K-State loss, they could end up in the top 20 as well. So KU, we thought they were going to have a decently easy schedule in conference play. Things just turned out, no, they actually haven't, because Arizona State has come out of the gates proving to be a contending team in the Big 12. So when you look at that, K-State doesn't have a lot of room for error because they're playing 3 top 20 teams, possibly 4. Okay, they need to win against Houston. They need to win against Baylor. They only have room for 1 more loss if they're going to make bowl eligibility, which is something that is a must-do at this point. But not only that, they need to do it for their pride. This is a class of 30 seniors who want to go out the right way. They don't want to go out on a season with less than 3 wins. And not only that, they need to keep the recruits interested in this program, and they need to keep the younger guys in the program out of the transfer portal. That is something that I'm scared for KU at this point, is guys like Isaiah Marshall leaving, younger guys who can absolutely make a statement on this program in the future. I'm a little afraid of that, but I want Devin Neal to go out on the right foot. That's a kid that, hometown kid, could have gone to the NFL last year. He came back simply to continue making this program better, and for no other reason. He deserves a storybook ending. I
believe so too. I mean, you have to go for this ball game because, like you said, I mean, Deshaun Warner's another guy. I mean, they got a lot of guys that, in this day and age, the portal is huge, and if they don't turn around quickly, they're going to lose some people. I mean, it's just unfortunately that way.
If there's no bowl game, I think transfer portal season is going to get ugly for KU.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, there were multiple standout players in K-State's game last night. Avery Johnson with 224 passing yards, DJ Giddens with 182 rushing yards and a touchdown, and Jace Brown with 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. Vince, who do you think was the X factor of this game?
I think we listed all 3 of them right there, the X factors, I guess, if you want to say it that way. I think the biggest one was Jace Brown. But you cannot discredit what DJ Giddens doing. I mean, he's shifty, he's shaky. Some of these plays you'll see here on the highlight. Again, I think the highlight of the game was the Shiloh Sanders where he put him to the Earth's core. When he
juked him out.
Juked him out and literally, broke his ankles basically. The young guys stepping up and the playmakers making the plays, that's what they needed to do. Jace Brown getting that 50-yard touchdown at the end of the game. A lot leading up to that. There was the interception. They go for it on 4th and 5, and then the ball gets tipped, and then, Colorado goes down and scores, but K-State had a lot of time with 2 timeouts. They respond very quickly. Maybe the questionable pass interference call that wasn't called, but if you looked at the replay, Keenan Garber's head was turned around looking at the ball, so that's why I believe it wasn't called a pass interference. But again, the X factor I really think was Jace Brown. We know the connection him and Avery have. They're roommates. I've talked about this before. Avery said it over the summer. They're at practice, once it's over, at least an hour, running routes, throwing balls, all that kind of stuff to just build that chemistry, and it's showing. He had 2 touchdowns, 121 yards, and in these environments like this, especially on the road, you need a guy like Jace Brown to perform. We know what DJ Giddens is going to do. We know what these other guys are going to do, but Jace Brown is that X factor, I think, on this wide receiver team. And here's Avery talking about that big moment with Jace and just the overall experience on the road.
What football's all about, man. It's we wanted to put the game away. The the drive before, obviously didn't go our way, and ultimately you just got to make plays in big moments. And Coach Kleiman's challenged, some of our, captains and top players on the team to just make plays in the big moments, and then that's what ultimately our guys did.
Okay, there's so many storylines with this game. I mean, Colorado goes first 3 and out, and then there's, they score first, K-State responds. There's so many storylines with this game that I think K-State answered some of those questions that they can win on the road, and they are still that Big 12 title contender.
Yeah, I like seeing how they built on everything that we saw at the Oklahoma State game with explosive plays, and I like seeing the offense continue to do that on the road because it's not easy on the road to have explosive plays.
And especially with that kind of crowd like that at Colorado, definitely that was a big step forward for them. Now we step out of bounds.
Out of Bounds is brought to you by Dara's Corner Market. We love local, and we are local for you.
Well, unfortunately, the Royals lost both of their home games to the Yankees and ended their postseason run this week. Vince, what can we take away from this season from the Royals?
I think you can really say nobody expected them to be in the playoffs this year after losing, 405 games last year. The free agent signings were huge. Michael Wacha, Hunter Renfroe, Garrett Hampson, Will Smith out of the bullpen. I mean, there's so many names you could think of. You learn that this team's competitive. Vinny Pasquantino is great. Bobby Witt, obviously we know what he can do. Salvi's still Salvi, even though he's aging a little bit more. You saw a lot of energy with this team. Matt Quatraro in year 2 really had these guys fighting for everything. And going to the ALDS, I mean, if you sweep Baltimore, the Royals pitching staff was actually really solid in most of these games. Yes, they struggled with maybe the last 2 games with the walks, and really just that, I think, is the walks is cut. I think I have over 20 walks in this series. But I think there's a lot to build upon, Katie. I think they're going to go out in free agency and spend a little bit more money to get those big bats. I think they need another big bat or 2 in that lineup. And I think they'll be right back there next year. I
think a big batter is the number one thing they need because they have Bobby Witt Jr., leader in the American League in hitting. But going from 106 losses to an 86 to 76 record is speaking monumental things about the future of the club. And that was kind of the vibe that was echoed around the locker room after, when I walking through there, the guys weren't really hanging their heads. Like they were all patting each other on the back. They were just talking about what this could mean for the future. But I think the offense it looked different as soon as Vinny Pasquantino injured his thumb. I don't think this offense was performing as well as they were prior to that injury because he's a huge part of their lineup. And once that happened, it just kind of shook them. Like Vince said, the pitching was great. I think they need to work on their bullpen. That is a big issue that needs to be addressed in the offseason. Work on the bullpen, get a few more power hitters, and you can compete with the top team in the American League like the Yankees.
I think so too, and I think they'll be fine. They got the young core, they got the pieces to do it. It's just you got to go out like they did last year, spend a little bit more of this, like Johnny Manziel, and I think they'll be just fine.
Yep, absolutely. Well, now we're going to hear from the fans.
Fan Question is sponsored by Meadowlark. Retirement awaits in Manhattan, where you can live your way every day.
Our fan question this week is, there were so many injuries, 4 back-to-back in the third quarter alone. Avery went to the locker room twice. Do we think this team will be healthy next week? That's from Kevin in Topeka.
The thing I didn't like was the Colorado players booing.
No.
That was not classy at all.
That was, honestly, are we surprised? I'm just going to say it.
No, we're not. No, we shouldn't be surprised. But Coach Kleiman said he'll have more of an update on some of those players on Monday. But if Avery Johnson talked after the postgame, he should be okay.
I don't think we're too concerned about that. No. But, yeah, we'll get all those updates tomorrow. And, of course, follow along with us for that.
That's right.
Remember to ask us your questions on our Facebook page and on Twitter at The Drive 13. When we return, we look at our predictions here on The Drive.
Welcome back to The Drive, fueled by BriggsAuto.com.
It's time to head down the home stretch of this week's show. Now let's look at our predictions. Remember to make your weekly predictions on our Twitter page at The Drive 13.
Let's start by looking at last week's results. The viewers went 2-1. Vince went 1-2. I went 3-0. Put that in writing forever.
Hey, I got to get 3-0 this time now. Now let's look at this week's pick, starting with K-State at West Virginia. KSU -2.5, Katie.
I am going to take K-State to cover.
I like K-State as well on the road.
That's a pretty small spread, I would think, given
weird.
how good they are and not like West Virginia's ranked right now.
Yeah, I like K-State. Next is KU versus Houston. KU minus 6.5 at Arrowhead.
I'm going to take Houston to cover because I think it'll be close, but I think this could be the week that KU finally gets the win.
I think KU is going to get this one.
Yeah.
I hope, fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
And our last game of the week is Oklahoma State at BYU. OSU plus 7.5.
BYU. Yeah. At home,
BYU.
They're too good. They're too good right now. Sorry, Oklahoma State, you're falling down. I don't trust it.
Yeah, I like BYU as well. They're ranked, obviously. They're great at home.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with BYU as well. Again, make your picks on our Twitter page at The Drive 13.
Now it's time for our On the Clock segment.
On the Clock is sponsored by Carpet One in Manhattan. Buy local for a strong local community.
Now, if you watch this game, obviously the K-State game against Colorado, there was a lot of different things that happened. Avery Johnson hitting the primetime shuffle after his rushing touchdown, which I thought was awesome to see. You saw also Avery when he was riding the bike. He took a selfie with the Colorado State fan and also a K-State fan with him. Barstool K-State put that out on Twitter, or X as we know it now. And there was a lot of celebrities at that game too. John Wall, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant. A lot of guys playing. I guess it was a preseason game there as well. So a lot of different things in terms of for social media clicks, if you will. Again, there's a lot of different things going on in Boulder. Obviously, of course, Coach Prime there obviously is the coach. So there was a lot of fun things going on in that game, and obviously K-State coming out with the win. But I think the best thing I saw was the selfie, I think, when Avery Johnson was riding the bike on the bench.
You got to have some confidence to do that because if they didn't win that game, I think that would have aged poorly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk about Andy Kotelnicki. I think a disservice was done by people coming into this season by just not being more cautious of the new offensive coordinator situation. And that's not a knock on Jeff Grimes at all. It's more so, I don't think Andy Kotelnicki was respected enough for how much of an offensive mastermind he is and was at KU. Because now at Penn State, look what he's doing out there. You turn on any broadcast, he's the talk of the broadcast for the offensive plays that he's cooking up. He was with Lance Leipold for years. I think we were a little quick to just brush past his absence coming into this season and not be more cautious of this offense might seriously suffer without him, as it has.
I agree, Katie. Totally agree.
Yeah, well, that's going to be it for this week's edition of The Drive.
Hey, remember, Katie, perfect timing. We'll see you next week right here on The Drive. All week on social media.